Hey MCARBO brother, I'm Chris Nelson, President at MCARBO. Really excited to introduce a new 50% trigger pull reduction solution for your Marlin XT-22 XT-17. A fantastic improvement. The MCARBO Brotherhood strikes again. You guys gave us the idea. Really happy with this and impressed with it. I always love the challenges. So somebody had emailed me saying, hey, you guys got the Marlin 60, the 795. What about the XT model? Well, here it is. I'm really excited to introduce this. Let's jump on over the tabletop, put this baby in. Before we get started, let's go ahead and clear our firearms together, remove the magazine, check the chamber, check the bolt face, check the magazine well. This firearm's clear. Let's go ahead and see what kind of factory trigger pull we're starting with. Since this is a rimfire, we're gonna take a dummy round snap cap. We're gonna insert that. It's gonna save our firing pin. Otherwise, it'd be steel on steel contact with that firing pin in the steel chamber. All right, let's see what we got. 2 pounds, 0.4 ounces. Let's take one more to confirm. 1 pound, 14.8 ounces. Parts and tools needed for this build: the Marlin XT-22 XT-17 trigger spring kit by MCARBO, compatible with all models for this firearm. The 9/64 Allen key, 3/32 inch Allen key, 3/32 inch punch, synthetic grease with PTFE, flathead screwdriver, and as always guys, make sure you're wearing iPro. Now we get started by removing the bolt. This contact point right here between the bolt and the receiver was a little snug, so I put a little bit of that synthetic grease with PTFE in there and it really helped. Open the bolt all the way, pull on the trigger all the way to the rear, and then pull the bolt right out. Set that aside. Now we're going to turn it upright. Take your 9/64 Allen key. We're going to remove the front and the rear takedown screws. You'll notice the front is the short and stubby one, and the rear is the long and skinny. Go ahead and do that now. There's the front. Set that aside. There's the rear. Go ahead and set that aside. Now we'll go ahead and separate our stock from the barrel and receiver group. Set our stock aside. After removing the stock, go ahead and remove this takedown screw stud. It's for the front takedown screw. We'll set that aside. It goes in that little cutout there on the barrel. Now we're going to go ahead and focus on the trigger assembly. Let's go ahead and focus in on the trigger assembly. You can see this is where the trigger and the sear engage right here in this little window cutout. We're going to put some synthetic grease with PTFE in there to increase the lubricity, making it less gritty, a nice smooth, crisp trigger pull. Also, this safety, this is your trigger safety right here. This blade, this little black blade on the trigger, this has to be depressed for the trigger to actually be pulled. So that's another safety feature that's built into a lot of firearms these days. So no harm going any lighter on the trigger pull, you know, especially on a bolt action rifle. We're gonna go ahead and lighten this trigger pull. We're excited about that. Other thing I want to point out is if you want to increase or decrease the tension on your trigger pull, say you get too light of a trigger pull, you can always tighten this. So if you thread this set screw into the housing, that'll tighten up the tension on the actual trigger pull, increasing the trigger pull weight. If you want to loosen your trigger pull more, you're going to back this out of the trigger housing. So just a little FYI there. Let's go ahead and get started. Press out this E-clip. Just helps to have your finger in front of it because these things will fly away on you. All right, if you got a little magnetic tip, that helps too. Go ahead and set your E-clip aside and take your 3/32 inch punch, press through on that pin. You can see how it's all located on this side here, right? So I'm pressing through, take our trigger hinge pin, set that aside, and now we'll go ahead and pull up and out on the trigger, and you can get a good idea what we got in there. So you can see this is your trigger return spring in here. This is what we're replacing. And you'll also see right here on the actual trigger, this is the safety mechanism, that little trigger safety blade. And then you can see the spring there behind it. I'm going to show you how to take this apart and put it back together because it is really easy to fall apart. If you breathe on it, it'll come out. So it's just a little pin that's held in there by tension. All right, and then that trigger safety pops out, and then there you go. There's a spring. So there it is, all in pieces. We'll throw it back together really quick so that we don't have to fiddle with this later. And obviously, you don't have to take this part apart. This is just for your information in case somebody loses it, and it happens. Happened to me. So I want to make sure you're well equipped here. All right, so you got to kind of fiddle with it, get it all in there. All right, and you can see this is all held in place by a little tiny pin. So it's just a tension engagement, that's it. So, all right, all pressed in together. Back to normal. All right. And that blade's pretty light, so you'll get through that initial pull and then the trigger pull. So let's go ahead and lighten up our trigger pull. You know, thanks to the factory, you know, we can really rest easy with this, you know, this safety. It's crazy how they're incorporating so much, but hey, there you go. Now we'll take our magnetic tip screwdriver, pull that trigger return spring right out, which is handy. So this is a stock factory trigger return spring right there. Let's go ahead and compare this to the MCARBO trigger return spring. So go ahead and grab your Marlin XT-22, XT-17 trigger return spring by MCARBO. Open that up. All right, so here's the MCARBO trigger return spring right here. Nice. Yeah, it's springy. Do a quick little side by side. So we get the factory OEM here on the right and the MCARBO spring here on the left. Oh yeah. Major difference. Way springier, the MCARBO spring. Yeah, my fingers are pretty busted. I know I'm gonna get a comment about that, I always do. So there you go. So the MCARBO trigger return spring, massive difference. I mean, I get it. Factory, they gotta do what they gotta do. It's all CYA. So we're gonna go ahead and install the MCARBO trigger return spring. Neat little trick here, you go ahead and take your small 3/32 inch Allen key. It'll just sit on there like that, and you're just gonna use that as a guide. And then take your larger Allen key to get it to slide right in. You'll see there's that little hole where the spring actually will be captured. And it slides right in, just like that. All right, so you can see it resting in there. Now we're gonna go ahead and drop our trigger right in, get some good tension on that trigger return spring. You want that face of the trigger to be compressing the trigger return spring. All right, you also wanna have your fingers over this little trigger safety pin that's just held in there by tension. Keep an eye on that. Then take your 3/32 inch punch, come in from the other side here, the opposite side of this black plate, and you wanna go ahead and capture that trigger. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and make sure we get it all lined up there. Good. And we're going to use that punch as a guide. We're going to push it right out. So then we're going to take our trigger hinge pin, right, with the cap on this side here, okay, and push right out, keeping it all lined up. Makes it so much easier. There you go. Nice. Okay. Now go ahead and get your E-clip positioned right there on that plate. Make sure you got that pin all the way pushed up so you got enough clearance there. You don't want to stretch out your E-clip. And now go ahead and take your flathead and push it right on. You hear that nice little clip. All right, look at that. We're good to go. Nice. So now, that feels way lighter. So now we're going to go ahead and put some synthetic grease with PTFE right in that housing. And that's why they got you set up with this little window too, so you can do this. So we've already got it like that. Might as well just get a little bit in there. I'm just kind of pushing it down so that it engages nicely. Oh yeah. All right, that's beautiful. All right, let's go ahead and put this back in the stock. Now let's go ahead and position our barrel and receiver group like so. Take our stock takedown stud and we're gonna slide that into the barrel just like that. Get it lined up and ready. Go ahead and drop our stock right over the receiver barrel group. Make sure you get your magazine release through that hole. Now we're gonna go ahead and take our short and stubby front takedown screw and drop it right in. It's gonna line up with that stud that we just put in the barrel. All right, and you wanna get them hand started. Take your long and skinny rear takedown screw, drop that right in, and make sure you can feel those threads and get them started. Don't wanna get it cross-threaded. All right, once you got them started, the threads are in nice, go ahead and take your 9/64 Allen key and tighten them right up. Then just make sure they're good and snug. Don't want to over tighten them, but we do want them snug. And if you're too tight on that rear takedown screw, that screw will stick through here and it'll cause that bolt to actually jam up. It's a good idea just to go ahead and back off that rear one just a hair, and you can see it right in here. So we'll be able to tell once we slide that bolt in as well, but just a little FYI. Now let's insert the bolt into the receiver. Go ahead and line up the lugs on the bolt, pull the trigger all the way back. Good to go. Now that we got our rifles back together, let's do a quick function check. Put a snap cap in there, save our firing pin. Go ahead and put on safe, pull the trigger, nothing. Place it on fire. Oh man. Let's go ahead and measure this trigger pull. Now let's go ahead and see what kind of modified trigger pull we got. Got a snap cap dummy round, go ahead and put that in, save our firing pin. 15.1 ounces, just under a pound. Let's take one more to confirm. 15.1 ounces. Well, there you have it, guys. From 2 pounds down to 1 pound, a fantastic improvement for your Marlin XT-22 or your Marlin XT-17, compatible with all variations of this firearm. Really fantastic, really impressed with it. Now, it is a light trigger pull. You're looking at a 1 pound or a sub 1 pound trigger, but you've got this trigger safety on here. That's plenty. I mean, good trigger finger discipline. You got trigger safety. It's a fantastic improvement. Really excited about it. Looking forward to your feedback. You guys requested it, the MCARBO Brotherhood. If you're not already on the forum, join the MCARBO Brotherhood conversation, forum.mcarbo.com. It's also on the website at the top, link. It says forum at the top. Really happy with this one, guys. Looking forward to your feedback in the forum. Thank you, MCARBO Brotherhood, for your ideas and your support. As always, happy shooting.